Today on Let's Get Cozy, we're going to be sharing chapters 19 to 24 of Robert Kimmel Smith, The War with Grandpa. We can't wait to find out what happens now that war is beginning between Grandpa Jack and Peter. It all starts now. It's time to get cozy. It's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. Are such an important part of our lives. Join my friend Kiyaya and I for Get Cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel, where we share some of the greatest picture books and chapters from children's and young adult literature to inspire you to keep embedding literacy into your days. Chapter 19, A Flag of Truce. The next morning, Grandpa didn't come down to breakfast until almost 11 o'clock, and he wasn't dressed either like he usually was. Mom gave him his breakfast of toast and coffee, and he sat at the table eating it and reading the newspaper. He didn't even so much as say good morning to me, or anything, even though I was sitting right there at the table with him. On the other hand, he didn't tell Mom anything about what had happened during the night. I was glad about that. In the afternoon, Mom took Jennifer off to buy her some new shoes. I was outside the house throwing a tennis ball against the front steps when Grandpa came limping out to the porch. He watched me throw for a while, watched me fumble the ball a few times. "Soft hands," he said. "You've got to make your hands real soft when you catch a ball, Pete. Yours are too stiff and hard. Are you nervous about catching it?" "Sure I am," I said. "See as how I drop it so much?" Grandpa grinned at that. "Soft hands are the secret, Pete," he said, then sat down in one of the porch chairs. I threw some more as Grandpa watched, trying to do what he said. Maybe I caught the ball a little better. "Flag of truce?" Grandpa asked. "What's that?" When two warring parties want to meet and talk things out, they put up a white flag of truce, then they meet under it and have a powwow. How about it? "Okay," I said, and I sat down on a chair next to him. "Does the white flag mean you're surrendering?" "Certainly not. I just want to tell you a few things. Okay?" "Shoot," I said. Let's talk." "Look, Peter, the situation is kind of out of my control, if you see what I mean." Grandpa looked down at his hands, which were big and knobby and had these little brown spots all over. "I didn't want to come up here from Florida and take your room. No way I wanted to do that. It's just the way things worked out. You understand?" I nodded. "I didn't want to retire from my business for that matter," Grandpa said. "But when Grandma got sick, that's what I had to do. Didn't want to move to Florida either, away from all the people I love, and I didn't want Grandma to die. It was lonely rattling around in that house we had down there. Very lonely. So here I am, and I guess you're stuck with me." "I understand all that, Grandpa," I said. "Good," he nodded. "But I still want my room back." "Oh, Petey," he said, kind of shaking his head. I think maybe you are a little spoiled. Maybe because you've had everything you've always wanted." "I want only what's mine," I said. "Single-minded," he said. "Just like your mother. Your own room and everything. Let me tell you, when I was a boy, I had to sleep in the same bed with your Uncle Dave. Bad times, Petey. Very hard times. We ate spaghetti a lot, and beans, and I never had 2 nickels to rub together. If I got a penny, it was a big thing. A penny meant I can go to the store and buy candy. And I sure took a lot of time deciding which candy. Now look at you and Jenny. Great big house, lots of toys, good clothes, plenty to eat. You don't know about really wanting something and doing without, do you? I know I want my room, and you've got it. Stubborn, Grandpa said, stretching the word out. I think maybe it'll be good for you to do without, Petey. Really, I do. So you're not changing rooms with me? I asked. Nope. Then the flag of truce is over, I said, getting up. Come on, Grandpa said. Don't be that way. Sit down. I've only got one thing to say, I told him as I walked off the porch. Watch out for my second attack. Chapter 20. A slippery customer. What I did was steal Grandpa's slippers. After dinner on my way upstairs, I just stopped by my old room and took Grandpa's slippers from the bottom of the closet. I left a little note, too. This one was written in magic marker on a sheet of notepaper. It said, I will not be defeated, but you will, the secret warrior. I had thought of doing some other tricky things to Grandpa, like putting a frog in his bed or a gerbil, but then I thought maybe the surprise would really get him scared and maybe give him a heart attack. That could happen to old people, you know, especially old people that get a nasty shock and bingo, heart attack. I was at war with Grandpa, but I didn't want to kill him. I went to bed thinking about all that, but before I fell asleep, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs, real slow and limpy footsteps. Grandpa came in and snapped the overhead light on. Okay, he said gruffly. Where are my slippers? What slippers? I said. The ones you stole, Petey boy. Before I could answer, he went over to my closet and opened it. There were his slippers in plain sight, right where yours truly was dumb enough to leave them. My, what do we have here? Grandpa said. Looks like somebody's slippers. He picked them up and looked at me, shaking his head a little like he was disappointed. Are we all finished with the sneaky tricks now? He asked. I didn't answer. You think you're one slippery customer, don't you? He said. Lots of tricks. Not tricks, I said. Oh no? What would you call stealing my slippers then? Guerrilla warfare. Grandpa looked at me and began to laugh. That really annoyed me. Here I was in the middle of a war and my enemy was laughing at me. I don't think it's so funny, I said. Funnier than you think, Grandpa said. Guerrilla warfare. Ah! Monkey shines would be more like it. You've got your slippers, I said. You can go now. Petey, we've got to get this settled between us. Tomorrow, maybe. You go to sleep now, okay? But tomorrow, we talk. He leaned over my bed and gave me a dry kiss on my forehead. Good night, he said. Good night, I said back to him. I wanted to say more like I was sorry, but I didn't. A war is a war, I thought, and it doesn't end until one party surrenders. Guerrilla warfare, he said on the way out of my room. When he closed the door, he was chuckling to himself. It was then I began to think that I would probably lose the war. Grandpa was so nice, he would just ignore everything I did, and in the end he would stay in my room and I'd be stuck up here forever. Some war this is, I thought. My enemy just kissed me goodnight. Chapter 21. Strategy and Supplies. That's very revealing, you know, Steve was saying as we walked to the store. He actually kissed you. Yes, I said. It's psychological warfare, Steve said, and very clever of him. He's messing with your mind, Billy said. We were on our way to Deal Town, the store where we always bought school supplies. Steve needed more pens, index cards, and a notebook. I never knew a kid who used up so many school supplies as Steve did, or who loved school as much as he did. It was a little unnatural, if you ask me. I mean, school is okay, and besides, you have to go, but I always think that a few more holidays during the year wouldn't hurt anything. Steve thinks that a day without school is a rotten day. He's always reading books and taking notes on index cards. Whenever he sees a new word, he looks it up in the dictionary, writes it on an index card, and memorizes it. Grandpa is trying to out-nice you, Steve said. But he is nice, I said. There you are, Steve said. He's got you believing it already. Wait a minute, I said. Something's wrong here. Yeah, you are, Billy said. It's very simple, said Steve as we entered the store. You start a war. Grandpa doesn't want you to fight, so he just tries to be so darn nice to you that you'll forget the whole thing and call the war off. Isn't that it? No, I said. He's just a good, sweet man who loves me a lot. So he forgave me for stealing his slippers and let me know by kissing me. That wasn't too bright leaving his slippers in your closet, Billy said. You should have thrown them in the trash. I'd never do that, I said. Or burn them, Billy said. You can't burn slippers, I said. Positively Machiavellian, Steve said. He picked up a shopping basket. What's what you said? Billy asked. Machiavelli. He was this old Italian prince, Steve said. He figured out all the moves you can make on an enemy a long time ago. I'll bet your grandpa knows all about him. Steve put a spiral notepad and a pack of index cards into his basket. He's not that way, I protested. Grandpa is just a great guy. That's all. Steve gave me one of those all-knowing looks of his, as if he were talking to a bird brain. Never underestimate an enemy, he said. I have to say this about my friend Steve. He can be a great guy with a great brain and all, but he can also be very dumb. So what are you going to do next? Billy asked. Probably nothing, Steve said. You're both wrong, I said. I'll do something. I still want my room back. Can you put a lock on the door so we can't get in? Billy wanted to know. No, I said. Steve took a 10-pack of ballpoint pens and put it into his basket. I'll tell you what I think, he said. I think the war is over, and you've lost. Chapter 24, A Dirty Trick. I think I was finally getting a little smarter about my war with Grandpa. Perhaps I had been following the advice of friends too much, and maybe I had been telling them too much about what was going on. Laughing my head off would be more like it. So when Steve and Billy came by to play Monopoly at my house, I didn't tell them anything about the slap in the face from Grandpa. voice sounded like it meant a lot more than nothing. "Can we just play for Pete's sake?" Billy said. I sat down on the floor with the guys and took the game set and set the game down in front of me. Then I took off the cover. Then I saw something unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. The Monopoly board was in the box, all right, but nothing else. There was no rules, no money, no playing pieces, no property. All there was a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. It was a note, printed with a ballpoint pen. This is what it said. "You can play at this game, but you can't play this game now." Down below was signed, "The Old Man." Chapter 23. Time Out for Jenny. Well, now we had a real war going, and I didn't like it one little bit. I'm really not too good at being mad at someone. My mom says I have a good heart and I never hold a grudge. This is true. Even in the past when my parents or Jenny did something that ticked me off, I always forgot it by the next day. So there I was at dinner that night sitting across from Grandpa, and I really wanted to hate him for slapping me, but I couldn't. I mean, he was my grandfather, for heaven's sake. He was old and alone, and his leg hurt him. I would have to be as mean as Darth Vader to hurt him and hate him. Grandpa was really lively at dinner. He even told a couple of jokes nobody had heard before. He smiled and talked to me too, but I couldn't tell if he really meant it or not. Was this the same man who slapped me across my face only a few hours ago? I was confused. So we had a regular evening after that, in spite of the mixed-up feelings I had. After dinner, we settled down in the living room. Grandpa got out his box of dominoes and began to set them up for a game with Dad. Jenny disappeared for a few minutes and came marching down the steps from her room wearing her tutu. In case you have never heard that word before, which I never did until Mom bought her one, let me tell you about a tutu. It's this little skirt that must have wires or something in it because it sticks out in a circle when a girl wears it. Jenny's was pink. How she got it was by being obnoxious, because Mom didn't want to buy it for her, not until she had more than 1 year of ballet lessons. But Jenny is very different from me. I'm the kind of person who would have waited a year, just like Mom said. Not Jenny. She went on a campaign for a tutu that was disgusting. She talked about it morning, noon, and night. She cried when she had to go for her ballet lessons. She told Mom that all the girls had a tutu, which was a lie, of course. She even threw herself down on the floor and had a tantrum. I mean, she kicked her heels on the floor and yelled her head off until Mom finally made her quit. When that didn't succeed, Jenny went to work on Dad. She got him alone at all different times, climbed up on his lap and smothered him with kisses like a puppy licking your face. She just kept sweet-talking Dad and being so lovey-dovey to him. It could make you sick. So what happened was Dad spoke to Mom, and Jenny got her tutu. And it wasn't even Christmas or her birthday. Jenny went to the stereo and put on a record of the Dance of the Hours. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced like she was on stage, presenting the world's most beautiful ballerina, Miss Jennifer Stokes. Then she let the record begin, which we'd already heard maybe 14 zillion times already. But Mom, Dad, and Grandpa, especially Grandpa, sat back and applauded like they had never seen Jenny dance before. What she did was jump around on her toes a lot. Every once in a while she stretched her arms up way over her head like she was trying to reach a shelf in her closet. Sometimes she kind of stood around on one foot while the other leg trailing off behind her. Posing that way, she looked like a small stork or a large chicken. Also, she hopped. She was supposed to leap, I think, but Jenny could manage to get only a few inches off the floor. At the end, she scrunched herself into a bundle on her knees and lifted her arms and smiled as the music ended. Well, of course, the grown-ups went bananas when she finished. "Bravo!" Dad shouted as they all applauded. I noticed he didn't shout encore. I applauded too, mostly to be polite. Sometimes it's very hard to be an older brother. Chapter 24, A Dirty Trick. I think I was finally getting a little smarter about my war with Grandpa. Perhaps I had been following the advice of friends too much. And maybe I had been telling them too much about what was going on. Laughing my head off would be more like it. So when Steve and Billy came by to play Monopoly at my house, I didn't tell them anything about the slap in the face from Grandpa. Let me tell the truth about it. I was also a little ashamed. We were all upstairs in my room, my new, horrible, and totally gross room, not my old, wonderful, and beautiful room. So this is where they put you, Steve said, looking around. It's not an improvement. It stinks, Billy said. I'm getting used to it, I said. Any action? Billy asked. I shook my head. The war is over, Steve said, just as I predicted. You're a loser, Billy said. He was sitting on the floor on the little braided rug in front of my bed. I liked your old room better. It was roomier, and it had more light, and it didn't have a smell. Smell? I said, what smell? Don't you smell it? Billy asked. He wrinkled his nose like a rabbit and sniffed. It smells okay, I said. Steve, you don't smell anything, do you? Steve took a breath through his nose. Yes, he said. We waited for a moment looking at Steve, but he didn't say anything more. Yes, you do, or yes, you don't, Billy asked. I smell something, of course, Steve said. My olfactory sense is working. Your olfactory what? Billy asked. I don't smell an olfactory. More like some kind of cheese. Olfactory, Steve said. O-L-F-A-C-T-O-R-Y. Your nose and smelling glands. Your sense of smell. Oh, Billy said. You mean you're showing off your vocabulary again? Precisely, Steve said, grinning. Or indubitably. Or, let's play Monopoly, I said before it went any further. Sometimes Steve could be a real pain in the neck, and sometimes he really teased Billy too much. I went to my toy cabinet and took out the Monopoly game. Steve sat down on the floor next to Billy. I'll be banker, I said. Of course, Billy said. Pete is always banker, Steve said, and he always wins. What does that mean? I said. Steve shrugged. Nothing. He said it in a way that sounded like it meant a lot more than nothing. Can we just play for Pete's sake? Billy said. I sat down on the floor with the guys and took the game set and set the game down in front of me. Then I took off the cover. Then I saw something unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. The Monopoly board was in the box, all right, but nothing else. There was no rules, no money, no playing pieces, no property. All there was a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. There was a note, printed with a ballpoint pen. This is what it said. Two can play at this game, but you can't play this game now. Down below it was signed, The Old Man. Things are really getting excited between this war with Petey and Grandpa Jack, Kiyaya. I was really shocked about the attack Grandpa made on the street when he slapped him. As things heat up, we're going to say goodbye for the afternoon. We are looking forward to continuing Robert Kimmel Smith's The War with Grandpa next week on Get Kozy. It's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. Until then, please stay safe and healthy, and remember, reading, that's right, Kiyaya, is power.